The sound of laughter cut through the marble hall, sharp and careless, as a wealthy man's shadow loomed over a little girl standing barefoot on a cold stage. He had everything money could buy, yet in that moment, he chose mockery over mercy. What happened next would silence an entire room, shatter a hardened heart, and prove that sometimes the smallest hands carry the greatest miracles. Before this story unfolds, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of compassion, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel so more real, emotional stories like this can reach the world. The millionaire was known across the city for his brilliance and his cruelty in equal measure. He had built an empire from nothing, rising out of poverty with sharp instincts and an unbreakable will. But somewhere along the climb, warmth had drained from him. His heart became armored, protected by sarcasm, suspicion, and a belief that the world was only fair to the strong. He attended the charity gala not because he cared deeply, but because appearances mattered in his circle. Crystal chandeliers glowed above silk gowns and tailored suits, while soft music played for guests who discussed donations as casually as stock prices. At the edge of the grand hall stood the little girl, no older than 10. Her dress was too thin for winter, her shoes worn until the soles bent like tired smiles. She had been brought by a small community music program that served children from shelters and forgotten neighborhoods. Her name was Lily, and she had learned to survive quietly. Life had taught her that hope was fragile, that promises often broke, and that attention could be dangerous. Yet music had become her refuge. A donated piano in a damp community room was where she spent hours after school, pressing keys as if each note could stitch her broken world together. When the program director introduced her, some guests barely glanced up. Others smiled politely, already bored. The millionaire watched her with narrowed eyes, unimpressed by her trembling posture and messy hair. He had seen performers from the best conservatories, prodigies groomed by privilege. This child looked like she barely belonged in the room. As she walked toward the piano placed at the center of the hall, her hands shook, not from fear of playing, but from the weight of being seen. The millionaire leaned back in his chair, amusement flickering across his face. In his mind, this was a harmless joke, a moment of entertainment before dessert. He believed talent was something sharpened by money and discipline, not born in places of hunger and loss. His mocking challenge, spoken lightly but carrying the sharp edge of humiliation, rippled through the room and landed squarely on Lily's small shoulders. Some guests chuckled uncomfortably. Others looked away, sensing cruelty but unwilling to confront it. Lily froze for a moment, the words echoed in her mind, not as an insult, but as a dare. She had been underestimated her entire life. Teachers assumed she would fall behind. Neighbors assumed she would disappear into statistics. Even kindness often came wrapped in pity. But music was the one place where the noise of the world faded, where she could speak without words. She took a slow breath, remembering the piano bench in the community room, the peeling paint, the way she practiced with mittens on because the heat rarely worked. As her fingers touched the keys, the room changed. The first notes were soft, almost hesitant, like a child stepping onto thin ice. But then something deeper emerged. The melody grew, carrying sorrow, resilience, and a quiet yearning that words could never express. It was not polished in the way elite training produced, but it was raw, honest, and devastatingly human. Each chord felt like a memory. Each pause felt like a wound held open just long enough to be seen. The chatter in the hall dissolved. Glasses were lowered. Heads turned fully toward the stage. Lily's shoulders relaxed as the music took over, guiding her fingers with a confidence she rarely felt in life. She played of nights spent listening to rain leak through a cracked ceiling, of mornings when hunger gnawed but hope whispered anyway. She played of her mother's smile before illness took it away, of laughter that once filled a tiny apartment now long gone. The piano became her voice, strong and fragile all at once. The millionaire felt something stir, something he had buried for years. The music reached places he had sealed off behind success and cynicism. He remembered his own childhood, The cold nights, the hunger, the way he promised himself he would never be weak again. He had mistaken vulnerability for failure, compassion for risk. But as the melody swelled, he felt tears burn unexpectedly. He shifted in his seat, unsettled by the realization that a child he had mocked was dismantling him without saying a single word. When the final note faded, silence filled the hall, heavy and sacred. No one moved at first. It was as if the room needed time to breathe again. Then applause erupted, not the polite kind reserved for obligation, but a standing ovation born from awe and remorse. Lily stood slowly, unsure if she had done something wrong. She bowed awkwardly, her cheeks flushed, her eyes searching for reassurance. The millionaire did not clap at first. He remained still, staring at the stage, his carefully constructed armor cracked wide open. For the first time in decades, he felt ashamed. Not the fleeting embarrassment of social missteps, but a deep, aching regret. He saw himself clearly in that moment, a man who had survived hardship only to lose his humanity along the way. Lily's music had held up a mirror he could no longer ignore. After the gala, the story spread. People talked about the little girl whose music stopped time, about the wealthy man who left the event early, visibly shaken. What few knew was what happened next. The millionaire sought out the community program, not with cameras or press, but quietly. He listened as he learned about Lily's life, her foster placements, her resilience. He funded the program fully, ensuring no child would ever be turned away again. He arranged for Lily to receive proper music education, not to polish her into something marketable, but to nurture what was already extraordinary. Lily's life did not transform overnight into a fairy tale. There were still struggles, moments of doubt, days when trauma whispered lies. But she was no longer invisible. She had mentors who believed in her, stability that allowed her to dream, and a piano that was hers alone. Music remained her anchor, but now it was joined by something new, trust. The millionaire changed too. He began to attend recitals, not as a benefactor seeking praise, but as a listener seeking truth. He volunteered time, not just money, mentoring children who reminded him of the person he once was. The bitterness that had defined him slowly softened, replaced by a purpose deeper than profit. He learned that adoption was not about ownership or savior fantasies, but about commitment, patience, and love. When the time came, it was not a joke or a challenge, but a promise made with humility. Years later, Lily would perform on stages far larger than that marble hall. Critics would praise her technical skill, her emotional depth, her unmistakable voice. But those closest to her knew that her greatest performance had been the one that changed a life before it ever changed hers. The music that night did more than impress. It healed. If this story is touching something inside you, if it reminds you that kindness can rewrite destinies and that even wounded hearts can learn to love again, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe so more stories like this can be told. And before this story ends, we have a special request for you. Please comment below with one word that describes how this story made you feel, or share a moment when kindness changed your life. Because somewhere out there, a child is waiting to be heard, and somewhere else, a hardened heart is waiting to remember how to feel. And sometimes all it takes is one brave soul, one honest melody, to remind us that humanity is not lost. It is only waiting to be awakened.